Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from New York Community Bank, AmTrust Title Insurance Company, Perfect Building Maintenance, M&T Bank, Customers Bank, Marks Paneth LLP, Ariel Property Advisors, Sterling National Bank, Capital One Bank, Collins Building Services, Meridian Capital Group. Additional support has been provided by grants from AVR Realty Company, Amerant Bank, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, B6 Real Estate Advisors, Briarwood Organization, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Commercial Mortgage, Citizens Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Properties LLC, Handler Real Estate, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Matone Group, New Banks, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merengoff Family Foundation, and these friends. You know, it's an amazing city, an amazing borough, but Brooklyn has something really amazing. It's called Industry City. And today, with the help of my executive producer, Andrew Kimball, he's assembled two individuals who are going to talk about what's happening in Industry City so my audience can gain great insight about this place of 6 million square feet?
6 million square feet.
Okay. So my guests they include Pat Whelan, who's a partner and principal at Sahadi's Fine Food, Marcus Diaz Gonzales, who's the senior vice president at ACOM, and last but not least, my executive producer, the CEO of Industry City, Andrew Kimball. So how would you describe Industry City and what it is?
Yeah, Industry City is a massive ecosystem of 16 buildings on 35 acres, 6 million square feet of space that from 1910 to about 1950 housed about 25,000 workers who came to work every day. But you fast forward to the 1990s, that was down to fewer than 1,000 workers. And we're in the process, 6 years in now, of adaptively reusing all of those buildings to take advantage of the rapidly growing innovation economy in Brooklyn.
So let's talk about what's happening specifically. You know, if you go to the Industry City website, you see a variety of things. We see office, we see retail,
Right.
we see manufacturing. What would you, if we had to break it down?
Right.
Let's go into the...
It's interesting, and I can go on for a long time about this, but the old definitions of office and manufacturing have kind of been blown apart. And
Right, I mean, you have the Brooklyn Nets over there.
That's right, that's
Okay.
right. And what's really happening in Brooklyn is the explosion of the innovation economy. The Center for the Urban Future just came out with a study that showed that Brooklyn has more startups, has more innovation companies than any other city in the United States, fastest growing than San Francisco, faster than Manhattan, faster than Queens, faster than any other borough. And so what we're doing is creating a community, an ecosystem that attracts those makers, whether it's digital media or tech or design or fashion or light manufacturing.
So how did a company who's had been on Atlantic Avenue for 71 years, originally founded, as you said to me, probably in the 1890s, but on Atlantic Avenue as an institution, decide to open up a second location in Industry City?
Well, besides, Andrew reaching out to us, it's We're Brooklyn people, all of us. We've been down there a long time. I grew up very close to Industry City. And while it looked a little strange 6 years ago to be considering something like this, once you walk through the place, there's a special feeling about it. And it's
So what's the feeling? You know, especially since I'm a Brooklyn born.
Right.
And I remember Industry City, as we would call it, as Bush Terminal. It was a different market. And then, you know, part of my life it was being used, and then for many years it was just dormant.
Well, at the time we realized we had to adapt our business a little bit and get in front of a younger audience, somebody that probably recently moved to New York. And Industry City had a very cool feel when you walk through there. And over the last 6 years, as we've been looking at it, you've watched this birth, where you went from an empty industrial, really pretty neglected space, to within years you start to feel life there. Now, anybody that walks through there for the first time, that, you know, and obviously Marco knows this, there's an energy to the place. And I don't know exactly how they did it, but there is certainly a pulse there.
Now, what would you describe for my audience who doesn't know it? I know what Sahadi's is. What is Sahadi's? Okay.
100 years ago, an ethnic grocery store, Middle Eastern, started in Washington Street in Lower Manhattan. As the years progressed, they adapted to, I wouldn't say mainstream, but more Mediterranean, healthier foods. And today we've been called the Brooklyn Institution. Actually, a Brooklyn tradition is trademarked by us now. So it's what we think grocery will be, which is a very simple, clean, healthy food.
Okay, so grocery, but you're also grocery with a food component where people can eat there.
And that's
an additional change.
The grocery business obviously has changed significantly in 20 years. Significantly. And,
right, but as I would maybe call it, sir, you're really fast casual in many aspects.
Yeah, when we started looking at it, you know, what can't you do on the internet? And what will people be going to brick and mortar in the future for? And one of the things that struck us that we realized that was a good place to be, something that will have a test of time, was a date spot where you'd be able to go out with a significant other and congregate. Well, what do you do in the Mediterranean better than anything else? You share plates. It just clicked, and we said, okay, this is it. It's exactly it. You want to be sitting in a casual environment. You want to be in a community. You want to share many small plates. And obviously, alcohol became involved. Something that we weren't thinking of at the time. We weren't thinking that we should have a full liquor license, but it just fit. And that's, our plan long term is that was what we think will drive the rest of the grocery business.
Let's talk about the food business in Industry City. What do we have there today, and what do you see in the future?
Well, there was nothing there 6 years ago, and you didn't find a single person there on the weekend. And now we have over 25 restaurants, and it's experiential retail. It's maker retail. Sahadi's was this before anybody even came up with those terms. And we talk a lot about how retail is imploding in New York in some places and in some types, but where it's growing is in this experiential piece, and you want to see the food getting made. You want to know who the workers are and are they local. You want to know, are they following sustainable practices? And that's not just true for food, but it's also true for the candle maker or the honey maker or the woodworker that fill up our buildings and increasingly want to be seen by the public. So we're creating connections to them.
Now, you're the urban planner in addition to being the senior VP at ACOM. As an urban planner, how do you see the redevelopment over the past 6 years of Industry City?
I see it as an incredible achievement, an incredible success, but also an incredible asset to the community, to Sunset Park and to Brooklyn. One of the reasons that we decided to open up an office, and AECOM being a large global Fortune 500 company, was to be part of a creative ecosystem, to be part of something that was growing and that was exciting. We are seeing more and more of our millennial employees and creative employees, architects, engineers, urban designers, landscape architects, living in the outer boroughs and wanting to be in different spaces, in the spaces that have sort of a vibe to them that is not necessarily a corporate office in Midtown or a corporate office in Lower Manhattan. And this for us was absolutely a no-brainer. We wanted to be part of that success story and be part of the growth, the regrowth of.
So how do you make the decision? I mean, you're in Manhattan right now anyway.
Absolutely.
How do you decide to open up a secondary location? I mean, Long Island City is a different venue, close to the city. Okay, there are other opportunities. Why Industry City?
There is a sense of optimism and innovation that I think is key in the borough. I live in the borough. I live in Cobble Hill. Many of my colleagues who are you could say they're the cool kids in the block. They're the people who are really striving to do something innovative in design, in engineering and architecture, in urban design, in landscape design. That is where they want to be. We use the office not just as like a charrette or a creative studio for our urban design and landscape group, but we also use it for some of our own corporate large meetings, for civic engagement with the industry. We run recently a partnering session with Economic Development Corporation and with minority and women-owned businesses for upcoming infrastructure, design, engineering projects in the area. We had found that location to be actually very interesting to do business and to grow the business and to attract people. There are people who decide to join us because when they walk through the area and they walk into the office, they say, this is a great place.
You know, my wife used to be in the recruitment business, and when going back 20 years, 15 years, people that she would recruit for downtown Manhattan were Brooklyn people or Staten Island people. Mm-hmm. Today, the city has changed. People want to be there, but the hype about Brooklyn and the growth is there, and the feeling. I mean, because besides being these large industrial buildings, you have the outdoor space, okay? And that's an additional opportunity that somebody could buy a product from you or the other food markets or the beer companies over there. Where would you like to see in 5 years in Industry City?
That's really easy, actually. One of the things as we went through this process and tried to rethink what retail will be, at least retail grocery and you know, little nuggets like where you would go out on a date or where you would congregate, struck. The spot that we picked, and it took a long time for us to get there, was designed exactly around that outdoor courtyard space. We have 3 bays, including a bar that opens up to the courtyard. We have bays that open up to community space outside of our space. And the whole idea is designed for you to be able to walk outside and sit in the sun and be able to, like I said, share a small plate, share a glass of wine or a bottle of wine, and just enjoy the outdoors. It's a very rare thing. You don't really have that. There's maybe Stone Street to some degree, but even that doesn't feel as comfortable. So it's I think that's a hidden gem as far as this place has.
There has been some discussion on the rezoning, changing the situation, but you have this great opportunity. Your transportation, you're right near the RR train, right? Mm-hmm. What's the hopes for the next 5 years in Industry City?
Yeah, we've had some remarkable success. I think it was very challenging the first couple of years with electrical outages and just infrastructure that didn't work. We've addressed a lot of that, at least in half of
Do you have your own power source?
We're connected to the grid, but we rebuilt the whole distribution. Spent about $50 million so far in electrical. We're in the process of replacing 17,000 windows and upgrading 144 elevators, and the list just goes on and on. But we've had real success. We've gone from about 150 businesses to 550, 1,900 jobs to about 8,000. We think we can double that. We're going to have success. We think that the zoning that we've proposed recently will create a set of uses that will really lock in the gains of the innovation district that we've already created. And so what do I mean by that? Well, we want a little more flexibility on retail. We're very constrained in terms of the types of retail that we have under the heavy manufacturing zoning that we're under. So we want to change to a light manufacturing, some more retail.
So what's your constraints right now with regard to retail?
That's right. I would say we've been very nimble in working around those constraints so far,
What are the major
typically
constraints?
over 10,000 square feet we can't do. Home goods, we can't do as much of we would like.
But you have certain furniture.
We do, but they have repair shops in them, and they're under 10,000 square feet of space. So we've figured out ways to work around it, but we don't want to be hamstrung if a 25,000 square foot home goods store comes along. The best example, the clearest example, is under the Brooklyn Nets. They built a $50 million practice facility. They've got 400 people working there for BSE. If a sporting goods store showed up tomorrow and wanted to open up there, it's a great location, it's parking, there's the subway, they could sell baseball bats, a hard good, but not a baseball glove, a soft good. That's the way the zoning was designed in 1950 to keep things apart. So we want to upgrade it to 2020 style and economy, and be able to have more flexibility in the retail. We also want to be able to embed academic institutions. When you look around the country and the world, really, innovation districts always have colleges and universities embedded. They're fueling the growth, the innovation, the connections with the community, the internships that can happen, the tech transfer between the colleges and the companies. So we want to add 600,000 square feet of classroom space. We want to add 2 business hotels to serve the business people coming there. When folks are coming to meet with Sahadi's or AECOM, they're coming from all over the world. They ought to be able to stay right at Industry City. And then we want to be able to build some more. We want to be able to add 1.5 million square feet of new space.
Who are your biggest office tenants right now in Industry City?
So AECOM is an example in the 15,000 square foot range. BSE has about 70,000 square feet now. The Vera Institute for Justice, a very innovative criminal justice reform not-for-profit, is moving into about 15,000 square feet of space. Essence Magazine has about 30,000 square feet. Buck Television is building out a 30,000 square foot space right now. So there's some really eclectic, innovative companies that are taking bigger footprints.
How do you get Industry City to be a destination spot?
Right.
Okay, as a destination spot with regard to tourists, visitors to New York City.
Right.
Okay, how do you make this a true destination spot, which is going to help everybody over here?
Well, it's partly opening things like Sahadi's that will now be open in the evenings and on the weekends. You know, when I got there in 2013, you came down there on a Saturday, you couldn't find anything, anybody.
But
so
you don't
now,
have a problem with 7 days.
We don't, and now there are 15 to 1,000 people coming every Saturday and Sunday to a wide range of events, and they're coming to eat at Sahadi's, they're coming to sit in the courtyard, they're coming to a tech meetup, they're coming to a music concert. So we are on the map now. People are just getting up and coming. We want to extend those hours into the evenings during the week, and that's starting to happen this fall with things like Sahadi's opening up. But we're really just scratching the surface. You start to see tourists coming, but candidly, our first goal was to make sure for the surrounding communities, not only were we a place that people would come and work, but people would stream down in the evenings.
You know, what's happening in the surrounding communities, look at the number of housing in downtown Brooklyn, the number of apartments that have opened up, 15,000 apartments over there. And then if you take 4th Avenue and then the Gowanus, you know, there are all these people over there. And then, you know, even people from Williamsburg, people are coming from all over because there is a destination. Lower downtown Manhattan, downtown Brooklyn is that. Okay, you're not over there.
That's right.
But what I'm saying to you is there an incubator? Does Industry City have an incubator of companies where, you know, you may have sold in your store many times certain products, but now you're in a community where they make other products over there, and they may not retail those products. How do you get the incubator effect over there to sell the products in Sahadi's? Because people like made in Brooklyn.
Right.
Okay, this is the key. You know, working in Brooklyn, living in Brooklyn.
We've only been open a week, but I can tell you that that was definitely a discussion about 6 months ago as we started working through this, and our product mix right now is Mediterranean, Portugal through Morocco, and local. And local also encompasses stuff made in Industry City. one of the things that we're talking about is, okay, now that we got to feel our way a little bit, get the evening and weekend service up and running, and then how do we get other guys who are in Industry City making products who don't have a retail front end, and how do we incorporate them within our space? You know, kind of a win-win for both of us. You know, we're not there yet, obviously, 6-7 days in, but that's definitely on the horizon.
No, but in a similar manner for you, Marcos, okay, to get different people. I mean, you're a Fortune 500 company, and you're growing each and every day. You have numerous projects in the metropolitan region. How do you find to get more people to want to be in Industry City, to want to work for your operation?
So one of the things that we're doing is I mean, we've been able to use the location and just the ecosystem and the vibe to attract people to work with us and join the ecom. But something else that we're doing is we have partnered with the local high school, Sunset Park High School, with the ACE Mentor Program for Greater New York, which mentors high school kids. And
you have a STEM program, don't you?
That's what it is. It's a STEM education program, but what we're actually doing is working with about 20 high school students every year. They meet at our office just about every week. At times we go to their high school, and we're hiring them. We're extending internships. They're working with us. They get paid. They work with us through the summer, and some of them stay working with us during the year. So for us, the comment that you made before about working in Brooklyn and living in Brooklyn and growing in Brooklyn, we look at Industry City as an innovator, as an incubator of innovation and talent, and we like to also grow it locally.
Do you have an incubator group where companies meet and they try to tell people about their other products?
Here's how we incubate companies. I mean, we do have NYU Tandon as a veterans incubator hub. We have a co-working space called Camp David. But we have, of our 550 businesses, 400 of them are in spaces smaller than 2,500 square feet of space and 3 to 5 employees. So this explosion of startups in Brooklyn, it's playing out in front of us at Industry City. We're cutting up 80,000 square feet of small spaces every 6 months because the demand is essentially unlimited. And I've seen this now for 15 years in Brooklyn at the Navy Yard and now here of these small makers. That's number one. And part of it goes to the Brooklyn brand, the Brooklyn maker culture. And a just interesting side note, you asked off camera about the Nets and Joe Tsai taking over ownership. So Joe Tsai was a major player in Alibaba. Alibaba recently had an event at Industry City. It got a lot of attention because they're going to now promote made in Brooklyn products on their global website. That shows the demand for Brooklyn products.
So here's the question, which as my executive producer you may take. Why do people go to Industry City as opposed to the other opportunities in Brooklyn, such as the Navy Yard, such as Bush Terminal, the other, the New York City property? Or why Industry City? Is it a price? Is it a cost situation? Is it the transportation? What? You could have gone to other place in Brooklyn. So could have you gone to a different place in Brooklyn. You could have gone to Long Island City. Why do you go to Industry City, or why do companies go to Industry City as opposed to other alternatives? You're not the low-cost alternative.
Well, we are for privately owned commercial space. We are absolutely the low-cost option. We have some publicly owned competitors like the Navy Yard and the Brooklyn Army Terminal, but this is not a zero-sum game. I've been hearing for 15 years that the market was going to get glutted in Brooklyn with small creative space. There's no end in sight. It's gone through the Great Recession. It continues to grow. So all of that growth, Bush Terminal now owned by the city where they're investing heavily, the Brooklyn Army Terminal, the Navy Yard, Dumbo, Williamsburg, Greenpoint, Long Island City, their success is our success.
Correct. Dumbo, it's overpriced. You can't be in Dumbo. I mean, it's a different situation, but you could have gone to a different location. Why did you decide on...
Great transportation. We do have a lot of people who get there in just a few minutes. The location, quite frankly, the potential for additional industries that are going to be coming into the New York market. You have green industry, and that we're hoping that the green industry will be part of the innovation economy in Industry City. Offshore wind, you do have the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal right in front of the site that can be a tremendous asset for the clean energy economy in New York City and in New York State for decades to come. We want to be a part of that.
And why?
You know, it's funny. Mine is less theoretical and more just gut. There's an energy there. And when you walk through the space and you watch the people going around, I joked with somebody. I said, for somebody who's, you know, not 22, you don't notice your age when you walk around there. There's a feel to the place. You know, before you asked what we expect Sahadis or want Sahadis to be in 5 years, when we saw that outdoor space, what we really, really want is we want the local community. We want different ages, different mixes, different people to share and hang out together. And creating that vibe and that energy is almost like an art to it, a feel to it. They seem to be doing it right now, and that's exactly what we want to continue.
I think it's happened, and the environment nearby, like the Costco, and the community, and the accessibility to downtown Brooklyn,
Right.
the accessibility to all over, has helped Industry City. And I believe I may have picked on it as a setup question, but I think in general, I think Industry City is a great asset to New York City. It was an underutilized asset, and the ownership over the last 6 years has really put their money where their mouth is in everything over there. And I'd like to thank Mr. Kimball for bringing together Sahadis and AECOM, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.